Right, guys, welcome to another podcast, Health, Wealth and Happiness podcast. We're joined by a very special man today. He has a lot of responsibility in our companies. So I'm really looking forward to introducing you to him and also getting his inspiration, his advice, what he's learned along the way, because I think it's very beneficial for not only people who listen to us in our first business, but also our second business, in ultimately the leadership side of things in managing a company at a very high level, but also getting the best out of clients and their results. So I'm joined by our project manager in the first business, James Eden. How, James? You okay? You okay?
I'm not too bad, mate, James. Good to be
Thank you very
speaking with
much.
you, mate. You okay?
I know you're very, very busy, so getting your time is very precious these days. So without further ado, before we dive in, tell us, who is James Eden? Where's he from? What does he do? Give us a little bit of background about you and your athlete career in the past as well.
Yeah. So, hi guys. My name's James Eden. As James mentioned, I am project manager here at JG Physique. My position from where I've grown up, I grew up in the elite athlete background. Started off in football at the age of 4, made my way into the academy at the age of 7 with West Bromwich Albion, played all the way up to the age of 17. Got the experience to work with some amazing individuals within that. And I think I hold a lot of my own personal skills to that element of being on the other side of leadership and understanding how much bureaucratic response is initially, in understanding your responsibilities and what you have to do in order to achieve a goal which is relative to your behavior and how you change and make that bridge come together. So you're keeping yourself, not just you've got other people who are setting the foundations for how you're going to go about and achieve your goals, but what responsibility do you have and what do you need to keep yourself accountable to? And I think that was really good. And then obviously once that kind of came to an end, it was kind of a space of, okay, now what do I want to do with this? When you're in the academy level, it naturally does hinder your education a little bit. You do attain a lot to that. So then I was like, okay, I'm basically starting from scratch here. Where do I go? So then I'm looking at it in perspective and go, right, I may as well use the skills I've learned there and put this into something beneficial. So I initially went to college. I studied sports sciences. I went into university. And my initial idea was to work within a sports science aspect, working with the elite athlete. So I went to the University of Worcester. I worked with the Worcester Wolves, which is a female basketball team, and I also worked with the Worcester Warriors, so working with a top-end rugby team who unfortunately are going through their own crises at the minute. But without going too much into that, it was really good to understand that. But I think having them been on the other side of things, where I'm actually delivering my leadership, I actually realised that as you go further up the scale and you become to more of a professional level, the delivery of things becomes a little less bureaucratic, where your delivery of your experience and your knowledge is imperative to development. People who are at that stage have already gone through it, they've learned it, they're at the level now where they just need to maintain, and it becomes a little bit more laissez-faire, a little bit more conversational. And I found in my own experience, particularly being a young lad trying to grow into the industry, that being younger, lowering the pecking order as well, particularly through study, the respect for the hard work that I was putting in and delivering to them, and with the mindset of what I wanted them to grow into, wasn't reciprocated, and I didn't like that. I'm very much a rapport builder. I like to feel like there's trust, like there's belief between myself and the person I'm trying to deliver that to, and I didn't get that. I didn't like what I was receiving there, so I was like, okay, I need to find a new path. But again, that was another skill and a new skill set that I now knew that I could take it to another leash. And then I was like, what do I then go for? So then I went into the public sector, and it actually initially started with, close to my heart, with my cousin. My cousin was overweight, never active throughout his lifestyle. He was very much, I want to be in finance, which, as we know, is very sedentary, and that's it. That's what I set my goals and objectives to. And I ended up becoming that lead figure and telling him, look, the way you're going and what you're seeing isn't healthy, and that's just going to have these bad implications, effects on what you're actually attaining to do in your career. So I opened him to that. I took him down on my wing, taught him what I knew about the gym, and just watching him grow and the respect that I could see and how he saw his own evolution, how that affected his well-being and his mental state. I was like, that's the buzz. That's the feeling and sensation that I love and I crave, is changing someone's life, but seeing that you're changing someone's life and feeling respected for that. So that's when I moved into the public sector. I started working in gyms, working with the local community, and that's where when we started seeing these results and seeing people's complete mindsets, not just their physiques, but their complete mindsets and their self-love and appreciation for themselves shift. That's where that desire and that's where that passion came from. And that's led me to where I am today.
Amazing. I think there's so much to unpack there, but building on what you said, a whole wreath of experience from an athlete in what you were doing, as well as your passion for changing people's lives and everything else, bringing that all together to where how long has it been now, Jay? How long have you been here now?
18 months now.
18 months. And now into the position you are, the first thing I want to really draw upon was that a key thing you said there about feeling sometimes undervalued, maybe by age or anything else in a certain workplace. As you know, in our ethos and our culture, it doesn't matter about your age. It matters about your standards, your performance. James came through the ranks here quickly, organized, disciplined, showing up, getting great results. And ultimately, as a company culture, we want to reward that. So we quickly identified James as someone who's got real good leadership traits, good organization traits that can ultimately lead a team long-term moving forward. And quite quickly, you climb the ranks very quickly into this position of where you find yourself now. And I know with you, which I love about you, you've got this big ambition. You want to keep moving forward. And that's what this whole culture is about, is being progressive at heart, working towards excellence and everything else. So I want to pick your brains more about that, because obviously I want people to really understand that behind the scenes, maybe you're seeing James on his content and everything else he does on the socials and everything else, but there's a big part that James plays that not many people really know from a management side of things that ultimately makes the company tick. Because being great coaches, as James will testify, isn't enough. You've got to be great leaders. You've got to be good people management, man management, to get the best out of people and their specific circumstances. So James, tell us a little bit more about how you transitioned from a coach with us into more of a slightly different position now, whilst also still being a great coach. Tell us a little bit more about how that transitioned for you.
Yeah, so obviously, like you said, I started what I would call bottom of the tree, right? I started off in the position where I'd moved into the industry that I wanted to do. I worked in the sector and worked with people who had their goals and objectives, but were really struggling with some of the things that I'd found that my cousin was struggling with. Career-driven, it affected their time auditing, it affected their perspective and their understanding of how much they can attain to, lost their vision and sight of what was achievable and sustainable to them. And I think because of the influence of social media and different things like that, people have this illusion that you have to be able to attain yourself, to train every day, keep yourself accountable to what you eat every single day, and that's the only way you get results. That's not true at all. As long as you work with the science and you work with the idea of what you need to keep yourself accountable to every day, step by step, with long-term vision and organisation and frameworking, you will achieve your goal. And I think that was the same. Like you know what it's like. If you want something done, you've got to set the example for it, right? So when it came to setting up the dynamics of what people wanted to do, when it came to changing and articulating and dynamically touch pointing people in what they need to change each week, that requires a lot of organisation and it requires a lot of leadership in that sense, so people don't just know, okay, you've got to do this. It's, okay, this is how we're going to go about it, and this is how we're going to rectify it if we don't have the availability to do it, right? Everyone can read a piece of paper. Everyone can watch a video online. Everyone has the resources available to them through YouTube, Instagram, and all these lovely things that tell you, oh, yeah, if you do this, you do that, right? But can you actually make that created and individualized to you, right? And that's really how things worked and how we saw results, was that relationship, but also that understanding of communication between all of our clients. This is how we're going to go about that, okay? And obviously through the content stuff and what we show, it works, right? It really does work. And as I was growing more and more through the ranks, it became a case of, okay, now I'm part way up that tree. How do I bring people up to the standard that I've tried to set for myself, so that these results are present throughout the whole company? Okay, so even like in within the clients that we already have, obviously we have our coaches respectively. I now have the lovely experience to share how they're getting on, how they're going well, and hearing the great stuff is amazing, right? I can hear, right, I've done this, I've integrated that, I've learned this, I've learned that. That's amazing. But then being that kind of like third mindset where I can actually change someone's perspective and their philosophy on, okay, this is great and I appreciate that you have your concerns here, but this is the bigger picture. This is what I want you to view things as. This is how I want you to see the next few months. Go ahead and do that. Come back to me in 4 to 6 weeks, and then we will speak about it again and see how things have changed. And just being able to see other people's journeys outside of my own clients, a bit from a distance, but just continuously ticking away and seeing where people are, is really good, right? And it's just making sure that that standard, and hoping that standard is followed across all clients, across all bases, and they feel they have that support.
Absolutely. And there's so much more to unpack in what you said, but like just concluding there, like obviously with the background that you've had as an athlete, which I can relate to, is that fire inside of you that's just constantly looking to progress and grow and then bring people with you on that journey, which is evident to see, which I love. You build on this again, like you say, it's harder to do in an online setting, is creating that culture. And that's a massive thing that's on your plate, is building this group, this team, this pack of coaches, as well as clients, along with your mission, your vision, and bringing them along. And that's hard to do in an online setting, but constant endeavor to do that is what we pursue. And then obviously the final thing you just said there is that obviously leadership comes in so many different ways. It's not just being, push all the time. It is also, like you say, about demonstrating empathy, having that compassion, making feel people heard, but then also appropriately challenging them in the right way and drawing them up onto your standard. And I think it would be fair to say you've constantly got better and better and better by being put into that situation. By being put into a situation where you're forced to learn, forced to adapt, and forced to grow. And that's in the reality, that's only how we become great leaders and great people and great man managers, is by just exposure. And that's a constant progression, a learning curve that you're going through right now, which is great to see. But you're learning so much every single day from what we can see. Tell us a little bit more about, I'm putting you right on the spot here. If you were someone who's looking at our company, and we have so many thousands of followers who watch us every single day and what we're doing and everything else, behind the scenes, from that cultural side of things, your vision and mission for your team of coaches as a standard, what does that look like? What are you doing behind the scenes that people can't see day to day, that you're plugging in every single day to make sure this well-oiled machine comes to life for our clients? Talk to us more about that.
So because I come from both backgrounds, right? I come from working in a gym and now working in an online format, and there are definitely the strengths and weaknesses in comparison to one to the other. But what it's about is identifying what can we do as a solution to remove those weaknesses. So obviously the one thing that people do attain to is the idea of you don't have that in-person support, right? That personal training element that you do get. But it's a case of, okay, I get that, but what can we then attain to make sure that this experience is exactly like that? So then it was working out ways to do that. So then I know I've shown you a couple of examples of it before, but it's actually using online format to an advantage, where actually now, rather than doing it in person, we can have a feedback and reflection tool, a video analysis, where I can actually freeze frame different parts of people's movements, where I can identify and go, look, if you see here, whether it be through Loom video, whether it be through calls, if you see here that you're not having enough anterior rotation of your hip, or you can see here that you've not quite set the equipment up correctly, by that influence we can actually have that commitment to actually giving you that in-person level of comfort and support. Then it's the case of, okay, how do we make ourselves different to continue to enhance people's experience? So then the beauty of this format is this is a every day-to-day thing, right? When you're in a gym, it's how you show up. Are you motivated? Yes. Okay, you're going to show up, you're going to get a PT, you're going to get a session. The beauty of this is it's a 24/7 job where you have someone looking at you 24/7, right? Your coach will come in respectively, whether you're at the highest point of your motivation or the lowest point of your motivation. And the point is that you are that level of support network that people need in order to make sure that not you're just keeping them accountable, but they know exactly what they need to be accountable every day.
Absolutely. Build on this for me. Build on this. Because when clients and units come into this environment, we're in a fortunate position. We're one of the larger online health and fitness businesses, as you guys all know. And that we have the luxury of having a lot of staff, a lot of people, a lot of team, not as opposed to a one-man band. And James ultimately leads those little teams when a client comes in. James, tell us a little bit more, for those who are watching right now who are interested, that makeup of coach and project manager forming a little team for the client, and actually how that plays out.
Of course, yeah. So my position as a manager is to make sure that my coaches are following a standard of practice, right? So we are always looking to use, like I said, that scientific approach to people's advantages, but also how to manage and articulate different personnel, because everyone's different. Everyone deals with different means of encouragement, reinforcement, different things like that. So we have to understand how we can articulate and change that. My responsibility in that is, like I said, in terms of the management calls that I can have, I can share that experience with them and say, okay, how are they looking? How are they enjoying the experience? And being able to voice their opinion on how they can improve the service, and being able to formulate that for them. But also, when I'm sitting there in the background, I can also check on how these clients are respectively getting on each week. So you know, respectively, in terms of our conversations, we have what we call a red flag system. People who we identify who aren't quite following what we would want to see from an outside perspective. Now, there's sometimes where people will drop off, right? People have external factors going on in their lives, and we appreciate that. But without open communication to understand those principles, we're going to look at it on the basis of, okay, this person might be on the pathway to regression. And we want to make sure from that project management standpoint that that isn't possible, okay? So we look at inactivity markers, we look at compliancy to training, we look at incorporation of nutrition, is it improving? We look at body composition graphs. If those are all moving and articulating to how we know that they should be, fine, great, Danny, we can leave the coaches to that. But if we identify that there's a little bit of concern there, we can be that additional support, or I can be that additional support to someone to go, hey, I'm watching you. I appreciate you might have stuff going on, but talk to me. How can we help you? How can we articulate that in? And I think just having that, almost like that other person looking over your shoulder and knowing that you feel supported in that way, is what I want to portray to everyone.
I love this. It's ultimately making this coaching more three-dimensional, and it has to be. And it goes back to what James was saying at the start here. We have to be, as leaders and managers, as good coaches, we have to be problem finders and problem solvers. And whenever ultimately something comes up, or maybe failure happens, we learn from that failure, we put new systems in place to navigate it from happening in the future. We ultimately have hundreds and hundreds of clients that we deal with. And ultimately, if we're to lead them at a standard that James and I want, we have to have the right systems to ultimately make sure that quality is maintained. And that's very important for me. Obviously, me and James being an extension of me, of our standards, our quality, what we aspire to be. We're not here to make up the numbers. That all comes back to what James is saying there. That management stuff that he does is what I like to call insurance. It's our way of making sure quality control checks are all in place, that we're delivering world-class results. And, you tell me, James, you tell me, you send me screenshots, hey, I've just had another management call. Really good call. Glad we did that, had that in place. Tell me a little bit more about the feedback you get from these management calls and kind of assuring you as such that it's needed in place.
Yeah, absolutely. We've had countless examples. Obviously, I'm not going to name a few, but just to give you an example of context, I've had people ranging from, I didn't know that I needed their levels of support, to this coach now feels like a best friend to me in terms of personality. And obviously the reinforcement or the good feedback you're going to get is going to be respective again to different types of personnel and what they relatively need. But hearing someone openly say, this has changed my life, this has opened my eyes up to new ventures, this has made me deal with the struggles in my life I never realized I had. Hearing different feedback tools like that is so good to hear, and being able to have a part of that where I can also relay my point into it and really open people's eyes to other perspectives as well is the beauty of this, is just hearing how successful people can be when they truly realize, or maybe even gave up on it before they joined the program.
100%. I love this. It's obviously our innate passion is to see people happy. That's why we do what we do. And we get such a kick and endorphin hit out of seeing our clients who are like life-changing. That's why we do what we do. But like James says, that it's understanding that unfortunately 95% of this industry is surface level, and it generates surface level results. Fads, gimmicks, information products that James was saying. This doesn't cut the mustard. Largely, 99% of people have implementation issues that need addressing first, and that's why a certain style of coaching, daily touch points, one-to-one accountability every single day, one-to-one coaching call every single week, project management like James is talking about, that's the level of depth that we need to go to see transformation, not information. And that's where we get these messages that James is sending and telling us right now on this podcast. That's where the magic is. And more importantly, that's where sustainability comes from in creating that lifestyle change. If leaders like James, Amy, Chris, our coaching team coming in and ultimately shaping new habits and lifestyle change, that's where we're creating exit strategies and they're keeping results instead of stop, start. It does come back to what James was saying though at the start though. This is a science. We do need adherence and compliance. And if we do get that, it's a done deal. And that's why the accountability management is that insurance to that. So it's everything all intertwined to one to bring this whole operation together. I'm going to put you on the spot again because I like doing this and I think you're doing very well. So as a manager, as a leader, talking to essentially people who are interested in changing their life right now, okay? Wanting to physically and mentally rediscover themselves, move to the heightened levels, as also as a very busy professional, time poor, numerous commitments. What are the top 3 tips or advice that you have for these individuals that they need to start putting in place right now to start reclaiming control?
Yeah, so the big one for me would be time auditing perspective, because if you look at it on face value and you balance it on the idea of what your calendar structure looks like, what's going on with work, what's going on with family, unless you actually organize your time, you're going to be running on the instance of just instincts, right? So you're going to be running off, okay, how can I use my time here, 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 here? If you give yourself a little bit of time of reflection where you can really understand, okay, this is my work commitment, this is my family commitment, and this is where my leisure time aligns with, you start to realize that actually you start to remove the procrastination between these different tasks. More and more and more time starts to open up. So when you've got someone who comes to you and goes, I've only got 20 minutes to train. I've had plenty of experiences where I've actually spoke with someone, even for just half an hour, and that 20 minutes turns into 45 minutes to an hour in their day. And just giving yourself that little bit of respect to give you a little bit more space to work on you, because ultimately, the way we are and the way we live, we're out there to save and to earn money for our family and to protect those that we love, right? And that's got to be the utmost priority. And I'm not ever suggesting that shouldn't be the case. But you also have to show up in yourself, and the best way that you show up for your family, your job, and your occupation is being healthy and ready to go for the day. And if you don't allow yourself that luxury, that's going to affect other impetuses of your life, and you don't want those side effects as well. Okay. The other side of things as well, and you'll hear this all the time online, but I can't echo it enough, is nutrition control. Particularly when you're busy with your time and you are on the go and you're not planning ahead, you will grab the quickest thing possible and available to you. And chances are, a lot of these foods will allude to carb concentrated or high sugar foods that are ultimately causing this spiral of control where you may be seeing your weight going up. Okay?
Yeah.
This is where the organization and the control comes in, and understanding how your day works, where you can time audit and go, okay, I'm going to be in this location here. This is what is available to me within that location or around where I work. These are the best options for me to get good, healthy, nutritious foods. And this is how I'm going to go about it and how I'm going to space it into my day to gather it. Okay. The more and more you just keep resting on the here and now, the more room for error you leave yourself with. So being organized, like you would with your job, is imperative to success. Okay. And also, I always use this example as well, is treating your own health like it would be your job. So if you knew that you had a training session, or you knew you had a mobility session, or you knew you had a walk or some step counts that you need to do, and you go, I can't be bothered, I'll just leave it till tomorrow. If I did that to you, James Goff, and I said, James, I'll do it for today, and then I'll leave it for tomorrow, you'd be like, what the, do you know what I mean? So it's going, okay, if I've set myself a target to get something done, you might come home and you might feel 50% energy, right? You might have had a rough day, it is what it is. You go to that session, you go to training, and you give 50%. If that's all you've got in the tank, you give yourself 50%. But that's much better than sitting on your arse, resting on your morrows, eating an ice cream and going, yeah, I needed that ice cream. And then it comes to self-reflection, 24 hours, and you go, I shouldn't have done that. And then it comes to 3 months down the line, you're like, imagine where I could have been, if I carried on this for 3 months. And you just keep falling into a vicious cycle. So I think time auditing, responsibility as well, and also keep showing up for yourself and for those around you are the 3 most important things, I would say.
I love this. So just amplifying this even further, you said that the first one I summarized into a priority hierarchy, like you said there. They've got to be number one, so everyone below can receive the best possible version of themselves. And that's a big part of what you do as a leader, is shifting people's perspective, and it needs to happen, which is really good. Then you said about nutrition organization, and coming on to the final point, which more so, run yourself like a job, run yourself like a business. Okay, put the systems in place just like you would in your career and what you do there, and ultimately, shock, you will get the same results. This is why we sort of cut corners or fad or gimmick to try and claw back time. Don't do that. You're wasting your time there. So like James says here, really, really good points there. And I really appreciate you hopping on, James, as well to do this. Lots and lots of value taken here. Guys, if you have got any questions for James, please, or myself, do drop them in the comment section down below. I'm sure you see James all the time with his content, what he's doing with the guys, the community, helping so many people. If you also want to hop on for a free blueprint strategy session with James, where you can look at this nutrition organization, you can run an audit, see where the gaps are for you, and ultimately give you some clarity moving forward, do comment down below or book in with one of our links somewhere. I'm sure Glezzy will post it somewhere. If you've got any questions for us, do let us know. James, anything to finish on? All good?
No, I think we're all good. The only thing that I would say to finish off is don't wait for the right time. There's never going to be a right time. If you feel you need to change and you're in that stage already where you're contemplating, just put your foot forward and go for it.
Wicked. Thank you so much for your time, guys. We'll see you in the next one. Catch you later. Catch ya.
Okay, guys. Bye bye.